What's up, party people? My name is Sunny Ray. This is the Sunny Ray Show. We've got yet another amazing guest today. Her name is Kat. She's a chemist turned inventor turned founder. Today, Tastry is building the first principles AI model for human taste, smell, and texture preference. The modality AI has largely ignored while mastering vision, sound, and language. The vision: predict what consumers will like before they want it. Oh my goodness. Kat, is this for real?
Yes, yes, it is. Excited to talk about it with you, Sunny. Thanks for having me.
Yes. Yeah, thanks for coming on the show. I'm super pumped as well. So tell me, first of all, what is Tastry in your words? Why should people care?
Yeah, the tagline is "We taught an AI how to taste," and as you very well pointed out, it is a human modality that is AI is also being applied to. And as a first principles model, there's a lot of applications across the supply chain, right? You can make products, you can recommend products, you can market products, you can solve supply chain inefficiencies. There's a lot of use case. So we've touched every part of the supply chain one way or another. It seems like a lot of people want to predict and anticipate what consumers are going to like. So yeah, we started in R&D first and foremost, and I can talk about why if you want, but we are a platform.
Yeah, I mean, like for now, we'll just keep it high level, but yeah,
Yeah.
definitely want to double click on all those things, kind of as we progress. You know, my favorite thing, like I always find like I love to geek out on like the tech and the business side of stuff, the money and all that, but without like kind of knowing the founder's background, I feel like it falls flat. So really curious, everyone said that you should have been a doctor. You say you're too experimental. Like, well, what did that streak look like in your chemistry career before Tastry?
Yeah. So I was pursuing a master's in bioinformatics and paying my way through school by working as a chemist. I got a couple years of computer science under my belt, but I was always too experimental, you can say, probably something a doctor shouldn't be, right? Which is probably why I went the bioinformatics route. But I just was always odd in that I would obsessively read research papers, and I would like to poke holes in them and absorb that information and try to apply it in the real world. And Tastry was just an inadvertent invention because I was working in the wine industry and I was learning about sensory and how people make products. And that's just kind of the rabbit hole I went down. And I was just inspired by a lot of the blanks or missing answers in the research, which was, hey, we're trying to map words to molecules and we're trying to use language to describe what people are experiencing, and that doesn't seem adequate. That doesn't seem like an adequate solution. So the conclusion I came to is it's not about the words we use to describe what we're experiencing, but how much we like it. And it turns out that is much more predictable, and the answer lies in the chemistry. And so, long story short, we came up with this is like fast forwarding to years and millions of dollars of R&D later, but we came up with a methodology that could most closely approximate how humans actually experience chemistry beyond quality control. And so that data was necessary to be able to predict preference. So we just built a company around that invention.
So it was super fascinating. So can you tell us about the two labels moment, like the one identical wine, two labels, wildly different scores? Like what did that reveal?
Oh yeah, that's an old one. Yeah. So there's a dirty secret in the wine industry, which is the first vertical that we tackled, which is you can make very large commercial batches of wine, and there are many cases, for example, where you're contracting with different brands and making the same wine, and the same wine can end up under two different brands, two different labels. So imagine if someone was making Coke and Pepsi and it's the same thing, just in different cans. And we had all this data on wines in our database, and scores and critic scores and consumer scores. And we just noticed that critics unknowingly were rating wines that had the same contents in the bottle differently. And critics notoriously are much less predictable in how they rate wines than consumers. There are other incentives involved. So it was just a really interesting observation.
And you say there was no kind of like single aha moment, right? It was like more like a boiling frog. Like, can you walk us through that like slow build?
I mean, I didn't set out to start a company. It just happened to be I was a chemist turned an inventor, and then turned entrepreneur. I didn't know until much later that I'm a much better entrepreneur than I am a chemist, right? And I like it wasn't a deliberate path. It just ended up there because the invention was so good and so compelling. It was worthwhile to start a company around it. Um, I couldn't even I was such a nerd. I couldn't even make eye contact with people, let alone go on stage when this started. And now, things are very different. So I guess one thing just led to another. And before I knew it, we had a company. Yeah.
That's super interesting. That's super interesting. So, AI has essentially mastered vision, sound, and language, right? So why are taste, smell, and texture still kind of like the missing modalities?
Because there's latent variables in other data sets, and that latent variable is chemistry. The whole thesis for Tastry is if you want good outputs and you want real predictability, you can't rely on the data out. Like, you can't buy the data you need. You need high quality data and highly specialized algorithms to crack taste. You can't just use, the typical LLMs or all the other modalities out there to do this. It's a different sense and it requires a different approach. So the reason that there were other sensory AI companies that tried and failed was because they didn't approach the problem from a first principles, and we did. So the answer is in the chemistry. You have to know the chemical composition of something. And in order to be an AI company and to enter this space, that means you have to have multidisciplinary talents and capabilities. You have to be an expert in chemistry, and you have to be an expert in AI, right? And you have to be an expert in like consumer science, and all these things have to come together. You can't just scrape ratings off the internet. It's not going to give you the effect you want. I hope I answered your question.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. So you found essentially like a causal link between chemistry and human desire.
Yeah.
Like what does that actually mean?
So if you look at the way we currently analyze products, it's largely for quality control purposes. Imagine there's a spider chart, and you're trying to make a new beverage, and the spider chart is telling you it's a 4 out of 5 sweetness and a 3 out of 5 acidity or whatever it is. Those variables are good for predicting how those basic characteristics are going to be verbalized or perceived, but there's like 800 other things that aren't on that spider chart that are impacting those characteristics in question. So like, you move one lever, you pull 800 other levers here, right? It's not a one-to-one relationship. It's a good problem for AI to solve, but you can't start out looking for basic quality control measures to get the output you need, right? Because they all impact each other. Our method captures things you might not know you should be looking for, and how important any one of those 800 things depends on the 799 other things and what they're doing at any one time. So it has to be more robust, more comprehensive.
What did the first like I don't know, like winery results feel like? Like the moment the model kind of predicted what people would love?
I think there was a lot of skepticism at first. Wine is a very traditional, insular industry. It's not it's not the fastest adopter of innovation. And, I'm going to artisans and winemakers and telling them that I can cut out 6 months of iterations and get them from point A to point B and get them the result that they want in 2 hours with 93% accuracy. That's a pretty outrageous statement to make. So our foot in the door wasn't, hey, let's make the best wine in the world, right? It was, let's solve some emergencies that are keeping you up at night, and show you what the more pragmatic value is, I guess. So like when we had the wildfires in California, right, that was a really big moment for us because people were losing entire crops and productions because they didn't know how to ameliorate the smoke taint of millions of dollars of product. And our AI was able to solve that issue before they had to drop the fruit. And so that made a lot of people believers, right?
And Kat, what failure or dead end taught you the most, kind of on the way here?
It's not always about having the best technology. I think the successful companies that are using AI in the future are going to be the ones that know how to integrate this into a traditional workflow. So it's about how people adopt it and how can you make this another step in the process. And if you're doing that successfully, if you're changing the way people have been doing something 25 years in their career, then you're going to run into other things like creating bottlenecks in other parts of the workflow where AI is not applied. And then so you have to think about this whole system as an organization and what the people are actually doing with it. As opposed to just what is the ROI you're delivering. Like ROI is compelling, but changing traditional processes still takes time. So
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that's what it's all about. It's the people. It's not, you see these exponential like growth curves, like computationally and all these things, but that's if you have unbridled access to the way the world works. So you still kind of have to weave into it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally. So what changed in how you see human perception, once you started like modeling it?
What changed in how I see human perception? So the part of the secret sauce of how this works is people don't like what they don't like more than they like what they like. So like context was a big thing. Like people are like, yeah, but I rate things differently if I'm in a good mood or a bad mood. And this is not the secret to something like this. People don't remember the good things as much, as weird as that sounds. So it was all about emphasizing how do you mitigate the risk of someone having a negative experience? Like, is there a food you hate, like blue cheese or tomatoes or something?
Tomatoes, good call. Yes, not a
Okay,
fan. I like derivatives of it, but yeah, not tomatoes.
okay, great. So imagine the best day of your life, like you're on the beach with your wife and you're on vacation. Do you suddenly like tomatoes?
No.
Yeah, so that's the key. And we didn't know that going into it, but it was very obvious when you started looking at things that way.
Huh. Cool.
Yeah.
So I guess let's just shift gears a little bit, right? So what is Tastry today? Like who uses it, and like what changes for, I guess I was going to ask for a winery or a retailer
Yeah.
that switches it on, but like, yeah, maybe talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so we do things in marketing. We help marketing companies identify customer, particularly beverage. Like we're very big right now. We're going into skincare, texture, functional beverage, soft drinks, things like that. We will expand into other food products beyond that. Like we just need more data, right? That we have to generate. But we do marketing, but honestly, our major focus is wedging into R&D. And the reason is we don't really have competition there because it's so objective. Like it's more deterministic. It's not probabilistic, right? I can prove to you very clearly in like a week, hey, you have to reformulate this and you have to, I don't know, get red 40 out of this, but it has to taste the same. Great. I'll give you the recipe. You do a focus group or a tetrad test with 100 people and it's going to pass. And it hasn't passed ever before. So I don't have to wait like in marketing, like 6 months to maybe try to measure it somehow to see what happens. I have a slam dunk right here and then everything becomes easier after that. So R&D right now, sorry, I got into the weeds. R&D right now, it's all about compressing the go-to-market cycle and helping products move at the speed of culture. Like right now, it takes a year and millions of dollars of iterations, maybe 2 years, to bring a product to market. And that's all because of trial and error. So kind of like a drug discovery company, we're just compressing that process down to weeks, saving all that time and money, and getting better products out more efficiently.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
You know, Kat, you're skeptical of AGI hype, right? If you swap, I was telling you about this in the pre-interview. If you swap two chess pieces, right?
Yeah.
And the LLM essentially just breaks. Like, why does that failure matter so much?
Okay, I'm gonna need like 90 seconds to answer this, but well, first off, I want to say that I'm very enthusiastic about the future AI. Obviously, I'm running an AI company. I just think that the way the market has reached consensus on this is wrong. I think AGI in particular is a very, very expensive bet that's looking for problems that specialized AI can solve more efficiently and better. And I think the AI industry, actually more the venture industry, has confused generality with superiority. Like we're confusing this scaling curve with this theory of intelligence. And my bet is the future will not be some omniscient general intelligence. It's going to be an ecosystem of highly specialized, superior, narrow algorithms, kind of like the way drug discovery companies are doing it. They're going to be domain specific and still deliver trillions of economic value. And just before we go into the economics of LLMs and how they're horrible, I think for a few reasons, we're not going to reach AGI anytime soon, at least not with LLMs. And you can easily prove this by going and reading papers all the way back to 1988 that show how statistical, pattern learning does not equate to understanding language. Or in 2023, there was a study with Berkeley that showed children can do abductive reasoning and AI still cannot. Imagine there's a task, you need to draw a circle. You don't have a compass. Do you use a ruler, a round bottom teapot or a stove? And children will choose the teapot, even though that's not the teapot's function to trace the circle. AI will choose a ruler. And so before we, seriously talk about AGI, we need to crack abductive reasoning. And I just don't see that yet. And so, yeah, I'll stop there for a second. But the point I'm making is there are way better algorithms than LLMs out there doing amazing things. And if we had just taken a pittance of what was spent on LLMs and focused on that, we'd all be immortal by now. You know what I mean? We would cure cancer. We would do amazing things. I don't need AGI to automate my outbound marketing or what other applications they're thinking about. I don't need it to solve very serious, specific problems. There are better algorithms for that. So probably a little inflammatory, but I would just say read some papers instead of just relying on, what Sam Altman says to the media.
Yeah. Well, I told you, right? I had Pete Voss on here, the guy who coined the term AGI, and he had a similar take, right? And he's the one who brought that kind of chess analogy to my attention. But yeah, I mean, it's not so easy, right, to just figure out what intelligence is all about. So speaking of, which, so I guess I feel like intelligence is up for grabs for sure, right? But what about courage? Where does human courage fit in a world of algorithms that can only pattern match?
Yeah. So it's more, it's actually kind of, I see it tied to the teapot experiment for some reason. Your question, right? It's more rationality in a way, it's more rational to use a ruler to draw a circle, right? But using something that is not conventionally used for that purpose is still very much a human thing. And I think like courage could fall into that category, right? Like being an entrepreneur, starting a company is incredibly irrational, right? The odds are very low. Like it's a very arduous process. Like, I mean, statistically speaking, there are probably way better ways to make money, right? Like on an overall basis, but we still do it, and we sometimes get outlier outcomes when we do it. But I mean, I would be curious to see what an AI would think about that.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's not courage is not necessarily rational, maybe is the way I would tie this in.
Right. I mean, you're staring into like this abyss and being
Right.
like, all right, let's go for it. What's rational about
Right.
that? What does predicting what you'll like before you know you want it look like beyond just wine, like food, fragrance, more?
Yeah. What does it look like?
Yeah, like where does this go? I mean, it sounds like wine's just the kind of the first step for you guys. Where are you going next with all
Yeah.
this? I mean, it's such a
Um,
huge, massive universe, right? I mean,
massive. I mean, believe it or not, like skincare texture is a really big thing. Like you would not believe how many billions of dollars are spent trying to get the skincare texture just right. Like how much money is spent on focus groups, right? There's fragrances and products. The Maha movement, it's trying to make everything healthier now, replace beverages, like sugar in beverages with better alternatives, like better ingredients, healthier for you products. Now we have the GLP, trends that are making us put protein in everything and it still has to taste good. I mean, there's so many different verticals and geographies. I mean, CPG is like one of the biggest markets on the planet, right? And there's a sensory component to the vast majority of them. So there are opportunities to do good and be profitable here at the same time. But yeah, I guess the key distinction here is we really like to think we have like the Steve Jobs approach, where we consumers are really sometimes bad at telling you what they want. They might not know they want it yet. And we like to think we know what people want before they know they want it. So maybe you can engineer success instead of trying to get lucky when you're launching a new product and market.
yeah, that makes a lot more sense, right? Than as opposed to spending years like building something and being like, wah, wah, wah.
Right.
So
Right.
I guess like how did Tastry land its first customers, and like what has selling deep tech taught you about go to market?
How is selling deep tech go to market? So I mean, we landed our initial customers brick by brick, like cold reach out through relationships, sit down, have a meeting with them, build that relationship. It starts to snowball from there. Outbound marketing doesn't work the same way for certain industries, right? But yeah, there's nothing magical to it. It was just a lot of effort. And then you what was the second part of your question?
Oh, and just like what has it taught you about go to market?
What has it taught me about go to market? I mean, discovery is like when you have like an emerging technology, discovery is like the most important part of the sales process. Which is like there's a lot of like understanding like how people are currently doing things the way they're doing it, right? And there's education involved. Like people have to kind of like wrap their head around how this works. A lot of the time, like sometimes the people you're selling to are not as sophisticated in tech as you are. So yeah, I know that's not like the romantic answer, but
who is that? Like what does that customer profile look like for you guys, like the ICP or whatever?
So it's going to be like product development or R&D people in CPG companies now. Before it was winemakers, and their way they're successful, right, at their job is to get products out on time and make sure they don't fail, and use every tool at their disposal to make sure the product does not fail in market. And how could they anticipate, like kind of like what we're helping them do, right? How do they anticipate what's going to be successful before they make it?
Tastry.
Yeah.
Okay, that's really interesting. So, what did building this company teach you about capital, like when to raise and when not to?
Oh gosh, yeah. So we've raised almost 14 million in capital, but I wouldn't say I've mastered fundraising at all. I would say I know what kind of investors to look for that are going to be a better fit for us. They're kind of like our two camps of investors in AI. I sense nowadays there's like the like AI, I call them like AI rabbits, like the super fast growing, like chat GPT wrappers that like require very little capex and they explode in growth, but usually their churn is just as high as their growth and they could implode very quickly because it's not defensible, but it is really impressive growth. And then there's like this other camp, which is like long childhood, capital intensive, like 5 years of R&D, but once this like apex predator matures, you can't really stand against it. It's going to be amazing, but you kind of have to like invest in that long childhood. So I just kind of know what I just kind of try to find out what people's philosophies are around these two camps and pick the one that suits us, which is definitely, the latter.
Awesome, Kat. So, I guess help me land the plane. Like, what do you want, deep tech founders watching this to take away from your story?
I would say the kind of deep tech in particular, they probably already know this, right? I'm no expert, but that you don't need to be compared to non-deep tech companies. Like there's a very specific thing that makes you a deep tech company and requires a different kind of mentality, how long it takes, how much money it takes, how you go to market, all those things. And it is a little bit longer. It's a longer road and it's a bit of a harder road, but that's because the payoff is bigger and it's more durable.
Very inspiring. This was an awesome interview. I really, really enjoyed it. Like, wow. I used to work in robotics. I remember haptics was like one of the areas that like intrigued me the most, and just the idea of being able to transmit forces and torques over an electrical medium.
Yeah.
But to be taking that to like the taste buds and all these other senses of ours, it just seems like the natural progression. Thank you so much, Kat. Where do people learn more about Tastry? Where do people learn more about yourself? And like if they want to tap into your consciousness?
Sure. So there you can go to hello@tastry.com. That all gets routed to me. Tastry.com is our website. I'm pretty active on LinkedIn as well, so we can send a link.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Done. Okay, perfect. So just hang out for 1 minute. I'm gonna bring this one to a close. We have 25 people, 23 people listening live. Thank you all for tuning in. And yeah, until next time, we've got a couple more interviews coming up. Oh my goodness, I'm interviewing a gentleman by the name of Will Fenn in about an hour or two. That's gonna be a lot of fun. Thank you, Kat. I'll like I said, I'll bring this stream to an end. I'll talk to you in a minute.
Okay.